Discover the sinister secrets of rural Canada, 12 haunted rules every police officer must follow. In the sleepy town of Maplewood, the air was thick with the stench of secrets. Shadows loomed long under the flickering streetlights, whispering of things best left untouched. Officer Lisa Morgan, a 35-year-old single mother, felt the chill creep up her spine as she walked the empty streets at dusk. Darkness swallowed her surroundings, each rustle of leaves sent her heart racing. Here, in this unassuming town, an eerie tension hung like fog, and normalcy was just a mask. Tonight was different. With local crime rates slipping through the cracks faster than she could patch, Lisa's worries turned into dread when sinister disappearances began to plague her community. Children like Emma, her own daughter, vanished without a trace, leaving behind hushed murmurs and frantic eyes. Why aren't people talking? She wondered, increasingly uneasy. While sorting through an old evidence locker, Lisa discovered a tattered rulebook, titled 12 Haunted Rules Every Police Officer Must Follow. The ink was faded, pages wrinkled, and it vibrated with a foreboding energy. One particular line haunted her: "Never look into the woods at night, those who do never return." With each word, the eerie folklore of the town whispered through her thoughts, stories of shadowy figures and children snatched away. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she resumed her patrol over familiar lanes that now seemed foreign, a sense of paranoia clawed at her. Was that a figure darting between the trees? A flicker of movement? Or just a trick of the light? Neighbors, once warm, now flashed knowing glances, their smiles tight with fear. The old schoolhouse, standing defiant against the dark, seemed to hum with a low, ominous energy, its windows blacker than the night sky below. Night deepened, heavy with dread, and her heart sank when Emma didn't return home. Panic ignited an unforgiving fire inside her. In the thickening atmosphere of the police station, urgency buzzed like static, but doubt loomed ever larger. Each deputy's face betrayed glimmers of suspicion, as if they might know more than they let on. Desperate, Lisa was pulled down the rabbit hole of Maplewood's haunted history, piecing together the town's haunting narrative. Each rule echoed the tragic tales woven into Maplewood's fabric: children who vanished, their stories glossed over, hardened into mere folklore. They were meant to protect and serve, and yet, they were hiding sinister secrets of their own. Unnerved, she clutched the rulebook to her chest, racing toward the schoolhouse. With the wind howling in despair behind her, she stepped closer to deciphering the macabre truths of her own department. Will the haunted rules lead her to her daughter, or will they plunge her into a void darker than the secrets that swirled around the town? Only time would tell if she could unveil the horrific reality waiting inside. The schoolhouse loomed larger as Lisa approached, its jagged silhouette cutting against the night like a tooth in the mouth of darkness. Each creak of the old wooden floorboards beneath her boots felt amplified in the silence surrounding her, as if the walls themselves were straining to hear her heartbeat. She hesitated at the door, every fiber of her being screaming to turn back. But Emma was out there, and she might be in danger. With a deep breath, Lisa pushed the door open. The hinges protested with a screech that sent chills coursing down her spine. Inside, the air felt different, thicker, dank, as if the very essence of the past trapped within these walls weighed heavily upon her. The moonlight filtered through the grimy windows, illuminating rows of empty desks, their surfaces coated in years of dust and neglect. The darkness seemed to pulse, and the heavy scent of mildew mingled with something metallic and faintly sweet that made her stomach turn. "Emma?" she called, her voice echoing eerily off the old walls. The answer was nothing but a dreadful silence that pressed down on her like a vice. That a scuttling noise caught her attention, sharp like nails on a chalkboard. Lisa turned her head, and for a split second, She thought she saw a flash of pale skin disappearing around the corner of the classroom door. Fear seized her heart. It was irrational, but the visions of her daughter played out like a film in her mind. She sprinted toward the source of the sound, pushing caution aside. "Emma!" She shouted again, desperation clawing at her throat. Every shadow, every creak sent her pulse racing. Was it just the building settling, or something far more sinister? The rulebook felt almost alive in her pocket, vibrating against her thigh, whispering warnings she was too frantic to heed. As she entered the classroom, the room was empty, the air heavy with stillness. But the windows, oh, the windows! Lisa felt a surge of anxiety. They were covered in strange markings, deep gouges resembling a child's frantic scrawl. Words appeared to twist into each other, names, dates, cries for help, maybe. The sight brought her to the edge of nausea. "Are you in here?" Fear paralyzed her, narrowing her focus. Just as she turned to leave, the floor beneath her creaked ominously, and then she heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible, curling through the air like smoke. It seemed to echo from the depths of the dark corridor beyond the classroom. She wanted to run. Every instinct urged retreat. And yet, something, perhaps the maternal bond, perhaps desperation, anchored her feet to the ground. She left the room, though each step deeper into the shadows felt like wading through tar. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices rising, lost, pleading, angry. Then she saw it. There, at the end of the hall, a ghostly glow pulsated beneath a door with peeling paint. It wasn't just light, it was entrancing, beckoning. Every part of her screamed to flee, but she stepped closer, entranced. What lay behind that door? Would it be the truth she sought, or a horror she couldn't fathom? The air crackled with tension. As she grasped the doorknob, the temperature dropped suddenly, a wall of cold crashing into her like icy fingers clenching around her throat. The whispers crescendoed, rising into a panicked symphony, drowning her resolve. Lisa turned the handle, breath hitching as the door creaked open. What waited in the shadows? Would it hold the key to finding Emma, or the end of everything she held dear? The door swung open with a groan that echoed through the hall, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. Lisa squinted, her heart hammering in her chest. The glow came from a dusty lantern hanging from the ceiling, its flickering light casting a grotesque dance of shadows across the walls. She stepped inside, the threshold seeming to pull her in against her better judgment. The room was cluttered with remnants of a forgotten past, broken chairs, torn books scattered like dead leaves, and a chalkboard smeared with illegible writing, as if someone had hastily tried to erase their own dark thoughts. But what caught her eye was a figure in the far corner. Small and hunched, it seemed to be scribbling furiously on a piece of paper. "Emma?" Lisa's voice trembled, a mixture of hope and dread swelling in her throat. The figure froze. Slowly, it turned toward her. It wasn't her daughter, it was a boy, his face pale and smeared with something dark that looked like blood. His eyes were wide, panic-stricken. "You shouldn't have come here," he stammered, backing away against the wall. "Where's Emma?" Lisa demanded, desperation pinching her voice. The boy seemed to shrink with each word, his gaze dropping to the floor. "They took her," he whispered, quivering. "They take everyone who comes here. You have to leave." Before Lisa could react, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, reverberating through the building like a thunderclap. It sent shivers down her spine, and she turned, pulse racing. The air felt thicker now, something was coming. "Please, you have to hide," the boy urged, eyes darting nervously. Before she could think, he shoved a nearby desk toward her. In a panic, she ducked behind it, feeling the rough wood dig into her back as she pressed against the wall. Her breath caught in her throat, and she strained to hear the commotion outside. Footsteps approached, heavy, deliberate. The whispers grew sharper, almost frantic. She peered out from her hiding place, heart pounding in her ears. Then, silence. The oppressive quiet was shattered by the sound of a door creaking open and the unmistakable shuffle of something dragging across the floor. "Emma!" She called again, her voice a desperate plea caught in the web of despair. The boy pressed his hands to his ears, shaking his head. "Stop. You can't call for her. They'll hear." Lisa clamped her mouth shut, panic swirling within her. Thoughts raced through her mind. What had taken Emma? What did this boy know? The shadows shifted, and from the corner of her eye, she caught movement, the dark figure emerging from the hallway. It moved with purpose, its presence thick as fog. The boy's eyes widened in fear as he felt the electricity in the room change. "We have to go now," he whispered urgently. As they crouched together behind the desk, she could almost feel the figure's gaze raking across the room, searching, hunting. Panic rose in her throat like bile. The boy's hand gripped hers tightly, his small fingers trembling. "Whatever you do, don't make a sound," he warned, his eyes wide. The figure lingered at the door, then stepped fully into the room, its form clad in shadows that seemed to swirl and shift. Lisa's chest constricted, breath hitching as she prepared for the worst. It exuded an aura of dread that seeped into her bones. In that moment, Lisa knew she had ventured too far into the heart of darkness, and just as she thought she might scream, the figure turned its head, and she saw its face twisted, grotesque, a mask of despair and anger. Their eyes locked. "Leave this place if you wish to see the light again," it hissed, the voice a cacophony of whispers. With that, the shadows surged forward, engulfing the room in darkness. What could she do? Fight or flee? The weight of her decision crashed down like a wave, and she had only moments to choose before the darkness swallowed them whole. Would she make it out alive? Would she find Emma, or was it already too late? The darkness pressed in, an oppressive weight that smothered every inch of the room. Lisa could hardly breathe, each gasp of air feeling like a betrayal of the silence that enveloped her. The boy beside her trembled, his small frame shaking like a leaf caught in a storm. "Please," he whispered, "just stay quiet." The crept closer, swirling like a living entity around them. Lisa's heart raced furiously, each beat a countdown to whatever horror awaited them. Then, a soft rustling came from the dark, a movement, deliberate and serpentine. She strained to catch a glimpse of what lurked beyond. Suddenly, the lantern flickered with a frantic intensity, casting erratic beams of light that punctured the blackness momentarily. She caught sight of the figure again, its grotesque features shimmering in the dim glow. Whoever or whatever this was, they were not bound by the usual rules of darkness. It seemed to absorb the light, feeding off her fear. "Emma," she murmured again, but the boy clamped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide with terror. "Don't. It'll know we're here." Lisa felt her stomach tighten. What kind of monster were they dealing with? The shadows thickened, wrapping around her thoughts, making it hard to focus. Time twisted and warped as she crouched still. It felt like hours had passed in that singular moment of dread. The figure took a slow step forward, the noise of dragging something heavy echoing ominously in the strange silence. It paused, listening. Lisa's heart stopped, frozen in fear. She and the boy were mere inches away from their doom, and all she could sense was the dread creeping through the air, an insidious whisper that pricked at her sanity. Then, with urgent desperation, the boy tugged at her hand. "We have to go now. Follow me." He turned and dashed into the darkness, pulling her along with him. The rough wood of the desk bumped against her legs as they moved, but she didn't stop to think. Dread twisted inside her, urging her to trust him even as instinct screamed for her to run in the opposite direction. They fled deeper into the shadows, the cold air prickling Lisa's skin as chills danced along her spine. The hallway loomed ahead, long and uncertain, lined with doors that whispered of untold horrors. But there was no turning back. The figure was continued behind them, more than a creeping sense of danger, it was a palpable force. "Which way?" Lisa urged, her voice barely above a whisper now. "Left." The boy shouted, pulling her toward a door that hung slightly ajar, its hinges squeaking as they pushed through. Inside, the room was tiny, cramped with broken furniture that formed tight corners. Lisa's eyes quickly adjusted to the dim glow filtering through a grimy window, revealing a scene that made her stomach churn. Old newspaper clippings covered one wall, the headlines screaming of disappearances, missing children, tragic accidents. Her heart sank as she spotted Emma's name among the snatched futures, evidence of terror not just in this house, but in the community. "They don't just take the lost," the boy said, voice trembling. "They feast on fear, and they know you're here now. We don't have much time." Suddenly, a sound echoed through the house, a door slamming followed by a haunting whisper rippling through the air, jagged like glass. Lisa's breath caught, the realization dawning on her like a dark cloud. They knew where she was. The hunt had begun. "Quick!" the boy urged, looking back at the door. "We need to hide. They'll be here any moment." Desperation clawed at her. Would she find a place to hide in this nightmarish scene? Could they escape? Did they still have time? As the creeping dread closed in around them, as they pressed into the corner of the room, Lisa's instincts kicked in. She needed to remain calm, to figure out a way to shield them from the terror lurking just outside. But what awaited them in that too-tight darkness? Would they slip through its fingers, or would they become just another part of the haunt's ghastly story? With her heart thrumming, she wondered what kind of monster had taken Emma. The shadows around them twisted like flowing smoke, clinging to the walls of the tiny room as Lisa and the boy huddled together. She could feel his shivering body pressed against hers, his fear almost a tangible thing. Each minute stretched long, the weight of silence wrapping around them like a shroud. Lisa's eyes were drawn to the headlines plastered on the wall. "Missing, local children vanish without a trace." The words pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat, a macabre rhythm in the oppressive silence. She swallowed hard, fear gnawing at her insides. Was Emma one of them? Had the monsters taken her too? The sudden sound of frantic footsteps echoed through the hallway outside, sending icy tendrils of terror down her spine. If the darkness had ears, it was listening now. Lisa pressed her back against the wall, praying it would shield them from whatever lurked beyond the door. "Shh," the boy whispered, his wide eyes darting to the door. Each creak of the floorboard sent his little heart racing. "They're coming." There it was again, a rustling, louder this time, as something scraped against the ground. The door creaked open, revealing an abyss shrouded in darkness. Lisa felt her breath hitch in her throat as she fought the urge to scream. Shadows slipped inside like hungry fingers, seeking them out with malevolence. Suddenly, the boy clamped his hand over her mouth. "Don't move," he breathed, panic-stricken. Inoperable silence ensued, thick with mounting dread as they exchanged glances, each desperately trying to convey courage. Then came the voice, a low, honeyed whisper that seeped through the cracks in the darkness. Come out wherever you are." Lisa's heart pounded in her ears. That voice didn't belong to anything human, it sent a bone-deep chill coursing through her body. It bore a sickening familiarity that rendered her frozen, every muscle in her body locked in place. "Don't listen," the boy hissed. "It'll trick you. We have to get out now." "But where?" She glanced around the cramped room again, feeling the eyes of unseen entities bore into her soul. Every piece of furniture was a potential hiding spot. Her mind scrambled for a plan, but the weight of the past clawed at her thoughts, dragging her down. "We can't just stay here," Lisa rasped, wrestling with the urge to shout Emma's name, to wake the silence like a desperate plea. "Look!" The boy pointed a trembling finger toward the back wall. A small hatch, barely visible in the dim light, beckoned like a secret passage. "If we can get to that," the voice lingered in the air, taunting and tantalizing, drawing nearer. "Lisa, come to me, sweet child." A panic rose swiftly in her throat. They were running out of time. This couldn't be the end, there had to be hope in this nightmare. Squeezing her eyes shut, Lisa grabbed the boy's hand. "Let us go," she said, her voice barely more than a raspy whisper. Igniting courage amidst fear, they dashed toward the hatch, hearts racing in unison. She could hear the darkness shift behind them, slithering forward like it was hungry for their very souls, but just as they reached the hatch, a cold gust rolled through the room, snuffing out the flickering lantern. Dread seeped into every crack of her being. In the pitch darkness, she pulled the boy close, waiting for the sound that would signal their doom. Then came the unmistakable thud of footsteps from behind, heavy and deliberate. They were not alone. The hunt was about to turn deadly. "Lisa," the boy whispered as the darkness enveloped them both, "what do we do now?" Her heart raced as she realized she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for Emma, too. The figure outside knew their names, knew their fears, and it was clear now it would stop at nothing to feast on their despair. Just then, something cold brushed against her ankle. She stifled a scream, holding her breath as terror tightened its grip. Did they have a chance to escape? In the depths of darkness, would they find both salvation and revelation, or become forgotten shadows in a twisted tale of horror? As the footsteps approached, she knew one thing for certain: the true nightmare was just beginning. The air thickened around Lisa as the footsteps grew louder, echoing ominously against the walls. Cold despair wrapped its fingers around her heart, squeezing tighter with every second. She could hear the insistent whisper again, threading through the dark, laced with an eerie sweetness. "Just a little closer, my dear, it knows you are here." The boy's grip tightened around her wrist, pulling her with urgency. "We have to get through the hatch," he urged, his eyes wide with fear. But as they turned to the back wall, the hatch seemed to fade, growing indistinct and distant, as if the shadows themselves conspired to keep it hidden. "Focus!" Lisa choked out, mortified by the way her voice trembled. "It might have already seen us. We can't." The wind howled from outside, rattling the window panes, but all she could hear was the sickening thud of footsteps growing closer. Unnatural, steady, and deliberate. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A powerful tremor ran through the room, spilling dust from the ceiling onto their heads. Lisa flinched, eyes darting around frantically. What was happening? The boy pulled her toward the door, but she hesitated. "We can't go out there. It's waiting." She shot him a panicked glance. They couldn't risk a confrontation, not now, when escape was still a flicker of hope. "Then what?" he whispered, terror threaded in his tone. "We'll get caught. We need to move." A sudden burst of strength coursed through her veins. With a quick motion, she dragged the boy toward the back wall, running her fingers nervously across the cold surface. The hatch stood before them, more visible now, like a dark eye that promised pathways to destruction or respite. "Help me!" Lisa cried, dropping to her knees. She shoved her fingers against the wooden frame, feeling for a way to pry it open. She could hear the footsteps now, so close she imagined reaching out and touching the icy silhouette on the other side. The boy's voice came strangled, "Please. They're coming." It sent a new chill up her spine, igniting every instinct within her to flee. With a primitive yell, Lisa pressed against the hatch, throwing her weight into it. The wood splintered slightly, barely budging. She gritted her teeth, the fear of the unknown fueling her determination. "Come on. We cannot die here." The boy breathed heavily beside her, fingers trembling as he pressed against the latch. Just as she surmounted from the depths of despair, the footsteps halted. The silence engulfed them, heavy and thick. "Why do you resist?" The voice called out again, raiding the room like a storm. "I can give you what you desire, just give in." "No." Lisa shouted, but her voice felt weak against the oppressive darkness suffocating her resolve. She squeezed the boy's hand, anchoring herself as a train of despair threatened to pull her under. "Give me strength," she whispered fiercely, drawing courage from the depths of her heart. With one final push, the hatch creaked open, revealing a dim passageway, leading down into uncharted darkness. Her breath quickened, knowing what lay ahead might either lead to salvation or worse, terror. "Now!" she hissed. The boy scrambled through the opening, followed closely by Lisa just as heavy footsteps returned, crashing down like thunder behind them. Once inside, they landed in a steep shaft, littered with debris and the chilling remnants of what once was. Lisa glanced back just in time to see a shadow sliding through the hatch, reaching for them with fingers elongated in a mockery of humanity. It was coming for them. Run! She screamed, pushing herself forward, propelled by fear and urgency. They slipped deeper into the abyss, the echo of their panic ringing in her ears. As she propelled them forward, she felt the passage shift, a constricting coil wrapping tighter around them. Where does this go? The boy gasped, stumbling slightly, his wide-eyed fear mimicking her own uncertainty. I don't know, she replied breathlessly. But it has to lead somewhere, anywhere but back. But the darkness had a will of its own, pressing closer, squeezing them with relentless resolve. Around the next bend, Lisa caught a glimpse of glimmering lights flickering like lanterns in the deep. We have to get to those lights. With her pulse racing, she surged forward, desperate to reach whatever lay ahead. What awaited them, however, was a stark realization that was far worse than being trapped in the dark. As they approached, the faint glimmer morphed into a sight that would test the boundaries of their very sanity, a room filled with familiar faces, all staring, eyes wide, devoid of thrill and life. Lisa, the boy's voice quivered in terror, and she noticed a familiar face at the forefront, lips curled in a smile that sent chills down her spine. The realization washed over her, and as she turned to run, the exit behind them echoed shut with the reverberations of a sinister laughter. What do you want from us? The boy whimpered, grounding her in the sizzling reality that they had stumbled into a waking nightmare, but the question was unanswered as the figures stepped forward, extending their hands. Would they reclaim their freedom or become part of a twisted gathering, lost forever in the shadows? Lisa's heart raced, pounding violently against her chest as she stared into the lifeless eyes of familiar faces, faces she had known, but now seemed twisted by the tendrils of fear itself. The figures advanced, their outstretched hands beckoning her, fingers writhing like snakes hungry for the warmth of living flesh. Please, she murmured, the plea slipping through her lips as if it were all she could muster. The boy hesitated, paralyzed by the array of familiar yet nightmarish expressions before them. Those are people we know, Lisa. His voice broke, and Lisa could see the recognition horror etched onto his features. He looked as if he might collapse under the weight of the realization. No! She screamed, tearing her gaze away from the grotesque sight to find a space to run. We have to get away from them. With a fierce yank, she pulled him back, forcing his feet into motion. They stumbled through the crowd, pushing past cold hands that grazed their skin, leaving trails of ice in their wake. The laughter swelled around them, a cacophony of derisive mirth that echoed off the walls. Lisa could feel the reluctance of the walls themselves, as if they loathed to let them escape. Go left! She shouted, spotting an opening not too far. The lights above flickered violently, threatening to plunge them back into oppressive darkness. With every ounce of strength, she propelled them forward, the exit looming closer but still maddeningly out of reach. But as they turned the corner, the laughter became a solid entity, a barrier itching to close in. The boy stumbled on rubble, an ominous crunch echoing in the narrow passage. It's too tight, he gasped, struggling to regain his footing, as the shadows loomed ever closer behind them. Push through. We can't let them catch us. Lisa countered, dragging him up as tears pricked at her eyes. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Desperation clawed at her throat. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then exploded into darkness, plunging them into a silence so profound it crackled unnaturally in their ears. In that instant, the laughter ceased, replaced by the hollow sound of their own panicked breaths. Lisa? The boy's voice trembled like a leaf caught in a storm. I can't see. What do we do? Keep moving. Whatever you do, don't stop. She urged, feeling the weight of the dark pressing against them, pulsating like a living thing, ready to pounce. Fear fulminated in her veins, urging her on. She could feel the echoes of voices swirl around her, whispering of surrender, of acceptance, of a fate they desperately needed to fight against. Carrion-like eyes glinted in the shadows, and an anguished wail reverberated through the corridor, a sound that pressed into her brain, clawing at her with unseen nails. Come to us, Lisa. The voice hissed, dripping with viscous warmth. No. She cried out, rage igniting within her. We won, be yours. Fueled by defiance, she lunged forward, hand clasping the boys, leading him as they navigated the unseen passage. But each step felt heavy, as if the air was filled with invisible weights meant to drag them back. The ground shifted beneath them. With a horrific lurch, the earth trembled, sending them both crashing to the floor. Shadows twirled above, whispers cascading like waves around them. Look! The boy shouted, pointing. A flicker of light emerged at the end of the passage, like the first rays of dawn. Lisa felt a surge of hope, but it battled with the dulcet whispers urging them to relent. Come on. She grasped his wrist and yanked him toward the light, forcing herself to move, even as dread washed over her. The figures circled, closing the distance. Don't look back. Just run. They stumbled into the light, colliding into an expansive chamber that felt like a twisted sanctuary, yet the dread followed. Suddenly, the brightness flickered, revealing ancient symbols etched into the walls, growing hazy and shimmered beneath their eager fingers. Is this a way out? The boy asked breathlessly, scanning the chamber for signs of salvation, but Lisa's heart sank. Each symbol echoed back. The desire of their pursuers, a resonance of yearning and despair that seemed to beckon her closer. We need to know what they want. Her words caught in her throat. Was this a trap disguised as freedom? A fear surged through Lisa, tightening its grip around her heart. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure emerged, a silhouette framed by the soft glow. You've come, Lisa, it cooed, voice sultry and inviting. Stay with us, it'll be bliss. With trembling hands, she stepped back, but the chamber shifted around her, walls pulsing, closing in. The shadows danced, and for a twisted second, she felt the weight of a choice draw near. What would it be? Assume the welcoming embrace of the dark, or claw through the surface of fear? Run! She shouted again, as panic pierced her resolve. But who would run from the most familiar call of all? And as Lisa turned to face the boy, she stared into his wide eyes, feeling the abyss of their situation wrapping tighter still. Would they succumb to the call, or would they fight against a despair that knew them all too well? The air grew thicker, heavy with an unsettling mix of dread and anticipation. Lisa's pulse surged, each beat a drum echoing in the cavernous chamber. The silhouettes lingered just beyond the flickering light, their presence a dreadful reminder of those they had once known, warped by despair. Lisa, the boy whispered, his lips trembling as he took a tentative step backwards. She wanted to scream at him to stay still, to not let fear dictate their moves. But the chamber felt alive, and its pulse rumbled through the stones beneath them, shaking her resolve. Stay close. She hissed, grasping his wrist tighter. However, as she did, something prickled her skin, sending shivers coursing down her spine. It was as if the very walls were reaching out, testing for a chink in their armor, a place to sink in and take hold. The figure shifted, moving with a grace that seemed unnatural. Its voice, soft yet agonizingly familiar, slithered through the air, wrapping around her thoughts. You can join us. Escape doesn't have to be so hard. Shut up. Lisa barked, the command filled with a mix of anger and terror. For a moment, she thought she saw her mother's eyes behind the tormented visage, and nausea gripped her gut. The boy whimpered, crumbling further into fear. What if this is our only chance? What if none of them are real? No, she breathed, her voice steadying. This is not real. We have to get out of here. The light flickered again, illuminating more of the chamber's strange symbols. They glowed faintly, casting weird shadows that danced like spirits trapped in a nightmare. Each one seemed like a warning, a flicker of truths woven too tightly. The symbols pulsated in rhythm with her racing heart. Without thinking, Lisa pulled him deeper into the chamber, past the ominous figure that still lingered at the periphery of their escape plan. But the space ahead warped as they moved, the light dimmed, the shadows grew thicker. It was like walking in quicksand, each step forward felt like an eternity dragging them back. I can't breathe. The boy cried out, collapsing against the wall. Its cold surface sent chills through his body, pulling him into the despair that seeped from the very stone. Get up. We can't stop. Lisa urged, panic spiking as the laughter began to return, a morbid echo chasing them. The figures shifted closer, the voices rising in a dirge-like chant, begging them to relent, to join them in the eternal night. Join us, Lisa. We are not your enemies. We are home. No. She gasped, forcing herself to meet the figure's gaze, to not falter. You are not home. Yet doubt wormed its way in, teasing the edges of her thoughts. Her body trembled. Was this all a grand illusion? Were they already lost, trapped in a web woven by the very minds they trusted? Heart racing, she kicked into gear, pulling the boy to his feet once more. This way! She shouted, darting toward a darker corner of the chamber that felt less welcoming yet more real. Lisa! He protested, but she didn't yield, her instincts guided by something primal. She could feel eyes watching from the shadows, the breath of the lost caressing her neck, urging her to turn back. As they sprinted, the walls shuddered and moaned, as if alive with anguish, longing, and a hunger that reeked like decay. Lisa, the symbols. The boy's panicked voice cut through the noise, and Lisa dared a glance over her shoulder. The symbols were shifting, rearranging themselves as if responding to her presence. Each rotation brought more dread, more whispers of despair that clawed at her sanity. They're changing. Keep running. She yelled, pushing him forward, but the ground beneath them surged, unraveling like a loose thread. It felt as if the chamber itself was trying to swallow them whole. Lisa. The boy's voice was stark with fear. What if it wants us? What if it's trying to help? No. It wants to keep us here. She felt her own mind buckle, the grip of the familiar falling away as she pulled the boy farther into the abyss. Suddenly, the light flickered wildly, the world around them quaking in chaos. Shadows coiled around her feet, the embrace growing tighter. The symbols began to scream, twisting into grotesque forms, each revealing a memory buried deep, urging her to stay, to remember, to forget escaping, and then she saw at the exit. A faint glow, flickering just beyond the swirling chaos, a path they could take. But would it lead to freedom or further into the depths? Look! She shouted, urgency feeding her adrenaline. But as she took a step forward, the path was swallowed by a wave of shadows, laughter bursting forth anew, a mocking cacophony that echoed of long-lost hope. Bliss awaits, Lisa. Do not turn away. Caught between the promise of darkness and the pang of freedom, she felt the boy's grip weaken, and panic struck her chest like a knife. They could not falter now. Trust me. She implored, but would he be able to? They were rushing towards the light, but would they meet salvation or doom? And as they raced toward the shimmering glow, Lisa wondered, in that final moment, would fear overshadow everything they once held dear? Lisa felt the darkness slithering around her like a tightening noose. The edges of her vision blurred as she fought to concentrate on the flickering light ahead. It was their only hope. It beckoned with sweet promises, but every step forward felt heavier, like wading through treacle, the shadows clawing at her ankles. Lisa! The boy shrieked, his voice slicing through the oppressive air. What's happening? Fear soaked every syllable. Just hold on. She shouted back, her voice hoarse and strained. But doubt bled into her thoughts, gnawing at her resolve. Was this light a trap? An illusion crafted by the chamber's malevolence? The shadows twisted restlessly, whispering her name in voices that pricked her thoughts with ephemeral fears. Come back, they murmured. You belong with us, Lisa. Shut up. She screamed, fully aware of the panic boiling within her. She could feel the boy's grip slipping. The boy she had to protect. Don't listen to them. Keep moving. But as they sprinted toward the exit, the silhouettes unfurled like smoke, cascading all around them. They formed faces, loved ones twisted in agony, their mouths forming silent screams. Lisa's heart stuttered, grief and terror lashing at her sanity. Suddenly, the ground heaved beneath them, as if the chamber itself was awakening from a long slumber. No! Lisa couldn't hear herself over the pounding in her ears. She stumbled, pulling the boy back just as the floor cracked, swallowing the shadows in chaotic slippage. Lisa, I can't. The boy was on the verge of collapse, terror etched into his features. I can't do this. Yes, you can. The fury of her words shocked even her. Her breath came in ragged bursts, but she tightened her grip on him, unwilling to let go. We have to go. We're almost there. The exit glimmered like a distant star, but the path throbbed with pulsating shadows, mocking their desperation. It loomed closer with every heartbeat, and yet it felt as if they were walking deeper into a web of despair. Join us, Lisa. The voices swirled back, a chorus of anguish. This is your fate. Make it stop. She cried, her panic shooting up like a flare. Let us out. Let us go. The shadows howled in laughter, the exit becoming a swirling vortex of harsh lights and unbearable shadows. Lisa shielded her eyes, but the brilliance seared her vision, probing deeper, as if trying to unlock the darkest recesses of her memories. Then she felt the boy pull back with a suddenness that sent a shockwave through her core. What if we never make it out? We will. I won't let anything take you. Tears burned her eyes, the weight of terror heavier than any darkness surrounding them. Lisa. And then the world around them shattered. The symbols erupted like fireflies, clusters of light spinning around them, some sizzling out into nothingness. She cried out as the laughter ignited into anguish, turning earth-shattering and deafening, crashing over her like a tidal wave. In that chaotic swirl, memories crashed against her conscience. Light-hearted afternoons spent laughing, the warmth of safety wrapped around her like a comforting quilt. All the moments soon lost: family gatherings, birthday cakes, first loves shimmering just beyond reach, but beneath it all, a truth clawed its way up, buzzing with danger. She had tried to forget the secrets hidden beneath their skin, the sins trapping them here. Lisa, listen. The boy's voice quivered, pulling her focus back. What if they want us to face the truth? Before she could respond, everything culminated in a blinding flash, swallowing them into an abyss that felt alive. Darkness engulfed them, spinning illusions and crashing memories, dragging her down into a vast unknown, and in that oppressive darkness, Lisa could hear the whispers again, slower, clearer, more menacing, echoing her worst fears. Face what you've lost, Lisa. Embrace what you truly are. Sudden stillness followed, and she blinked in confusion. Had they been swallowed by the chamber? Or had they crossed into something else entirely? What just happened? She breathed, panic flooding her voice. The boy's expression mirrored her fear, eyes wide, searching. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. There was no sign of the chamber or the whispers, only a suffocating void. And in that void lurked the terrifying unknown, waiting. Lisa? The boy whispered, barely audible. Fear clawed at his voice, her heart raced, dread dripping like sweat. Something was coming, something that breathed hunger. Lisa, we need to run, now. But as they surged forward into uncertainty, Lisa felt a chill deep within her, realizing the truth: the darkness hadn't vanished. It had merely retreated, preparing for its next strike, and at that chilling thought, the laughter echoed once more, growing louder, closer, wrapping around them like a foreboding shroud. Welcome home. What awaited them in the shadowy expanse? Would they fight for freedom or become another whisper in the dark? The void around Lisa suddenly pulled back, a tight coil unfurling, and cold light pierced through the darkness. In an instant, she and the boy were thrown back into the chamber, but it had shifted, warped into a grotesque reflection of before. She stumbled forward, her heart pounds with fear while she tried to keep her balance. Where are we? The boy gasped, his body quivering with shock. The figures were still there, their shadowy forms dancing around the edges, but they were different now, more opaque, less tangible, like memories fading from existence. "This way!" Lisa shouted, yanking the boy's arm as she navigated the chaos ahead. Hope flickered in her chest like a match, even against the night that threatened to erase them again. "Wait!" he cried, clutching at her hand. They shared a brief moment, locked in each other's terror, and she felt his fear seep into her. But now she could sense the way forward, an invisible pull towards something. "Listen," she urged, "we need to face it, whatever it is." Maybe this is the only way. Before she could finish, the shadows surged forward, a wave of cold pressing against them relentlessly. The whispers crescendoed into a cacophony of voices. They were trapped with the torment of the past. Lisa's breath quickened, memories floating up, flickering in the face of the darkness. Each figure turned toward them, eyes glowing like phantom stars. "Join us, Lisa. You are one of us." She shook her head, finding her voice. "No. This isn't what I want." The boy trembled beside her, still clutching her arm. "But they look like everyone we've lost? Or hidden?" She countered, fighting the luring pull of despair. The doubt flickered like a candle flame. She remembered every moment of love, every heartbeat, every reason to fight. With a sudden surge of defiance, she stepped forward, her heart strong against the weight of the darkness. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, each word resonating with power. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in surprise. "Face the truth, Lisa," the voices cooed, the dark tones twisting around her, but she pressed on, driven by desperation. The glow in the chamber pulsed, revealing the path to a polished wooden door shrouded in light. We need to reach that door." "Are you sure?" The boy panted, emotions swirling in his eyes. "Trust me," she yelled, seizing the moment. They ran. The shadows howled behind them, but with every step, Lisa felt her resolve harden, like steel forging in the heat. As they reached the door, the figures surrounded them, urging her to stop. "Don't leave. Come back, Lisa. Never. You don't own me," she cried, as she slammed her hand against the door. A shockwave reverberated through her body. Suddenly, everything went silent. The shadows halted, the whispers ceased. In that breathless stillness, Lisa yanked the door open, and blinding light spilled through, engulfing her. She felt the boy's hand slip from hers, and a rush of sorrow tore at her heart. But she didn't have time. Without hesitating, she leaped through the threshold. The world exploded in brightness. It enveloped her, sweeping her away from the darkness, from the laughter, and from the terrible pull of the past. As her vision adjusted, she found herself standing outside the old schoolhouse, trembling and breathing in the cool night air. "Emma!" she gasped, scanning the quiet street. Panic crashed down around her. Shadows hung at the edge of her vision, but the warmth of the night calmed her spirit. "Mom!" A voice broke through the silence, ringing pure and clear. There was Emma, standing just beyond the trees. Relief flooded over Lisa, hope filled her chest like a wave crashing onto the shore. "Mom! I was so scared." Lisa sprinted toward her daughter, the weight of fear lifting as she enveloped Emma in a fierce embrace. "I thought I lost you." She wept, holding her tight, feeling the warmth of life dispel the chill that had gripped her heart. "What happened?" Emma asked, pulling back, concern etching her brow. "I'll tell you everything, but let us go home, please." They turned away from the schoolhouse shrouded in tortured memories. As they walked, Lisa glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see the darkness lurking, but it had vanished, as if it never existed. With Emma's small hand in hers, the two walked toward the neon glow of the town, stepping away from the haunted whispers, towards the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The light pouring into the dark cracks where fear had once taken root. The darkness would creep in again, she knew, but tonight, they had won. And that was enough. As the stars twinkled above a deep consolation in the night, Lisa breathed freely for the first time in ages. Hope flickered brightly, a guiding ember in the depth of a terrifying past. She squeezed Emma's hand, ready to face whatever came next together. And that was their victory. If this story moved you, you need to subscribe now and never miss another thrilling tale. Smash that like button, your support fuels our journey. Flood the comments with your thoughts. What do you think awaits Lisa and Emma? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Let us spread the love.